It is the middle of winter, a Tuesday. 4 English musicians nervously construe the American jazz of their grandfathers in a corner, while fresh, strange, vaguely upsetting things happen to the country outside. I am in the opposite corner, devoting as much of my attention as I can to the millilitres of beer left at the bottom of another man's bottle. There is an extraordinary amount to be gained, I believe, from worthless, hideous things, once one manages to give them a healthy portion of one's attention. These globules of lager expand in an attentive mind from their rank, phlegmy puddles into grand Elysian reservoirs. I am amazed that a person does not need to die to attain beauty on par with these disgusting dregs of beer. I am amazed that these trivial, scum-caked rabbit holes to heaven, when they appear to us like this, do not get stopped up. Surely God is giving away too much too soon with colours this gorgeous. Surely if none of us had ever seen these specific shades of gold before, and a bearded prophet described them to us, accurately and concisely, we'd mistake him for a blithering, toad-sucking maniac. If the whole world were this colour, I feel certain there would be no more mystery. Everything would be simple suddenly, and over, and near, and neat, and easy. No one would be ignorant of anything or know anything. It would all always be there, to touch, with no gaps. There would be absolutely no complications, or nuances, or imbalances. The world would be finished, and perfect, and gone. I leave the jazz cafe and go for an innocent evening stroll around the Oval. It is a peaceful night in a kind of eerie, unsettling, deeply disturbing and grotesque way. There is something absent from the air, something that makes the giant sigh you have in your chest impossible to get out, like you've strolled into a tame, half-hearted suburb of hell. This is how I spend my last few hours as a 23-year-old. It is my 24th birthday and I am brushing my teeth. I am brushing them more carefully than usual because I am being filmed, and few things would bring me greater agony than being established in the mind of the general public as a sub-mediocre toothbrusher. I feel the population are prone, under certain probably unavoidable circumstances, to use my poor dental hygiene as a warrant for my gruesome, humiliating murder, which, despite its inevitability, I am still trying to avoid. If I filmed every action of my life, I would become even more proactive in my already extreme, life-draining efforts to avoid humiliation and violent death. I would spend every day scrupulously researching with numerous graphs which methods of defecating and having sex were least likely to inspire widespread bloodlust and ridicule for me among the general populace, who I very much love but feel may be easily induced to commit acts of infinite depravity against me if I push their buttons, so to speak. I have received a hat for my birthday in the style of the hat that recently blew off my head into the Thames. I am fond of it, unlike these 2 spots on my left cheek. Having spent the last few weeks full of incredible well-disguised rage, partly hat-induced, my acne has become much worse. I guess the moral is to be less enraged, but this is clearly an absurd moral. I look at the dead Christmas trees on Fentimore Road and assess the success of the methods folks employ to convince themselves they take pleasure in their joyless traditions. I also, on my walk to UCL, see this yogurt pot, and this wine brochure, and this whatever this is, and this lost mammal sign, and this shoe in the Thames, and these pigeons. I see Princess Kate walk into the Royal Opera House, but I don't get my camera out quickly enough, so I end up getting this footage of these people instead. People who, because they are not princesses, I consider less worth filming. Then I go to a seminar. After the seminar, some of the seminarians go to a cafe. I explain using my hand why the abstract musical filmmaking tradition of Vertov will eventually supersede the plot-driven novelistic filmmaking tradition of Eisenstein in this coming century. Then I cruelly exploit the fact it is my birthday to eat the remainder of this woman's lunch. Ridden with guilt, I stare at this bird and these cameras and this trunk. Then I go to meet Bort.
It's like one of those bits of footage they put into the news to be like, well, what does the man on the street think?
Exploiting my birthday once again, I wangle from Bort a free beer and some chips. We talk about our lives. I invite him to my birthday meal, but he cannot come. He has a house viewing. He does not yet live in London, but he wants to live in London. It is also short notice. He has only just learnt it is my birthday, even though we are close friends. I keep my birthday secret from people as a general rule, even those I have come to the conclusion do not want me dead. I am not sure why. I suppose I don't happen to feel particularly born. If it turned out I'd never been born, I mean if it turned out there was never a time when I wasn't there, it would surprise me less than the actual state of affairs. A day passes. On my way to Cable Cafe, where I am going to get things done, I walk with my neck craned upwards so I can see the shafts of light fringing the tops of the buildings. It is getting very cold outside. I hug the camera tightly, partly so my fingers don't swell up with Raynaud's, partly so my shivering doesn't rattle this footage into an unwatchable state. My fingertips are consequently visible in many of these shots. I wonder why the clouds are so white today, and why they are moving so quickly, and why watching them reminds me of childhood. My neck begins to hurt. In the cafe I don't manage to get anything done, so I walk home and get something done, and walk out again, in the evening, when the light is similar, only deeper, more viscous, more like compressed, boiled honey. The moon is out also. This time I don't crane my neck up, I take it in on my own level. To reiterate what I said 2 days ago about the golden beer liquid, I cannot believe such absurd concentrations of beauty are permitted to exist. I cannot imagine the process that allows these beams into existence past quality control. Who approved this ridiculous intensity of perfection? How did this sort of thing get funding? Surely this wasn't for us. Surely you selected the wrong race, sir, the wrong species. How could you let such an obvious clue make its way into the story? You who call yourself an author, you've given everything away, you've spoiled everything. The dolphin lamps between Vauxhall Bridge and Lambeth Bridge distract me thoroughly, as they often do. They're really weird. They remind me of tall men who are in love with their secretaries and passionate about irrigation. In the South Bank Centre, where I have, inevitably, ended up, I watch this woman dancing from what I hope is not a menacing distance. She is wonderful. She is like every joyous and liberated atom of creation, concentrated into one floppy, speedy, and abandoned being. This is exactly the kind of dancing I intend to do the next time I dance. She is the main character of this and of all films. My left hand feels weird. I go, again inevitably, to the BFI and watch Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, which I watch with the brain of a man who has been filming a lot recently. I spend most of the film wondering whether I could one day make a better film, and conclude, yes. The next day is kind of weird and unfilmable, so I mostly don't film it, which is probably a mistake. I end up back at the BFI on my walk to UCL, see some sunglasses on a traffic light, play in the CCTV with Bam Bam and Mandrake, then look at the moon. The next day, Saturday, I go to the Royal Opera House to see a ballet with the woman whose lunch I ate on my birthday. Our tickets are worth £3, which buys us a standing space and a dreadful obstructed view of fragmentary abstracted dance gestures from afar. The knowledge that there is someone dancing nearby, even though I cannot see them, remains valuable to me, better than a lot of hypothetical nearby doings. If I do one day find out, as I expect I will, that the whole human race has concocted a giant conspiracy against me, and everyone is always dancing until I enter the room, when they immediately stop, I won't even be that mad. Afterwards, I go to UCL again to return a DVD of Capra's Lost Horizon, which I watched last night. Leaving on my way to Mandrake's house in Buckinghamshire, I see a dead pigeon, but don't want to film it too close like the guy in American Beauty, so I stand back and get it in the bottom right of the frame. On the train I feel odd, sort of like I'm being buried alive, but in a really good way. I feel like delicious spadefuls of comfortable sludge and muck are being piled on my comatose body, like I've landed in a serene, tactile, squelchy cheese dream. There's this squishy, intimate, clogged mulchiness in the carriage, like all my pores are smothered in opaque, marshmallowy mud. I would probably, in truth, not appreciate being buried alive if it happened to me now, but this is mainly because of death, rather than burial. Burial is an experience which, so far in life, I've only found superb things to say about. I suppose that's because I've only been buried under cushions and other people, both of which make me unbelievably happy. All the textures of this horrid carriage seem like fleshy chunks of music, muffling my face in their perfumed flannel of tone and tissue.
Breakfast.
I'm the second to arrive at Mandrake's house, after Bam Bam.
He's got his buttocks out. His mega naked buttocks.
I skillfully disguise my feelings of alienation and detachment from my two friends, and adopt a cheerful, easygoing demeanour. I believe it is by no means absurd to say that I am exciting them into spasms of joy, scarcely thought possible before the present age. It is at times like this, while I am so unmistakably immured in the present age, 2019, I must start getting used to that date, and in my own age, 24, I must start getting used to that age, while X grapes in X sand frame light, low-key goings-on in a rich rural English home, and there are no extraordinary things to be said and no extraordinary things to be done, and extraordinarily little of anything and nothing is said and or done, even though we want it all to be said and all to be done, because the nothing being done, the nothing not being done, and the nothing neither not being done nor being left undone are so easy to confuse with one another, and with the words we're using to summon them into or out of themselves. Okay, wait a minute, where's the sentence going?
Larder. Larder.
Oh yeah. It's at times like this when I want to fly the world like a nest and take my chances with the airless recesses of space. Don't get me wrong, I am always grateful to the world for not butchering and mortifying me with as much fervour as I dread. I will consider my life a roaring success if I somehow manage to avoid degradation and death with progressing torture in front of a whooping studio audience. I still feel, however, like God is calling away our generation from these quiet homes to a dangerous astral task. We pick up the remaining dinner guests and commence with dinner.
We're going back for some falafel. Yeah. It'll be jolly.
That sounds great. So was it a good ballet?
Yeah.
I wake up on Sunday to this canyon in the curtain and follow it all the way up. I'm not particularly hungover, but I'm exhausted. In the general exhaustion of the sorts of days I'm having these days, consistently ending up where I end up for reasons I don't understand, to do things that uniformly confuse me, the sight of this curtain is somehow reassuring. It's a sweet winter morning. I'm certain that if I remained in this tranquil English environment for the rest of my life, I would become unrecognisably unperturbed. Britain is melting like a sugar pill on the tongue of the Atlantic, just as this cold morning is melting like frost on the tongue of eternity. I have to make my mind up at some point whether I want to remain in this sugary land, ready to dissolve with it, and probably have a lovely time doing so, or whether I want to go out in search of something to go out in search of. To live in a world without Sunday mornings does not appeal to me on a Sunday morning, but then what does? Mandrake takes pictures of El Clocker and the woman whose lunch I stole on my birthday. Then he takes pictures of me filming him taking pictures. We go for a long walk after a long, long, lazy delay.
OMG!
OMG. Yeah, OMG.
The light is like a knife. On the train home to London, and by the way, this train journey is costing me £13 more than it should do, I look at the sun. On the walk home to Oval, and by the way, this walk is taking me half an hour more than it should do, I look at the moon.